my name is Bailey Creech, and today I will be talking about communication throughout life and how the different stages of life affect communication. Do you ever hear someone else's interactions and wonder how they got the communication style that they have? Well, communication is a very fluid part of life that's always changing and always adapting. Some big aspects that can affect communication are early childhood, family, and the impact that they might have on a communication style, technology, growing up with technology, the ease of access of communication, and joining the business side of life whenever you become an adult and have to become more professional with your communication. So, to begin, we will go all the way back to the beginning of anyone's communication journey, which is your childhood. So, in early childhood, you learn the very base blocks of communication by learning your language, by learning nonverbal communication, by symbols and like motions, arm movements. And also, you have to form a listening skill whenever you join the earlier elementary, kindergarten, school. So, this is a very building block age for communication. As a child grows into their communication style, they learn how to communicate, they learn how to read, they learn how to talk with people, they develop a sense of self. It's very important during childhood because you learn to understand the very core of our language and how to communicate in a public setting for the first time in school. As you follow a little further into life, family becomes a big part in everyone's communication story. So, everyone's family has a different way of communicating. A family is the most comfortable place that someone can communicate. It's where you feel at home. It's where you're most used to communicating before you start speaking in bigger groups or with bigger peers, and before you develop sorts of fear with communication, with being judged. You don't have to feel like you're being judged when you're communicating with a family. So, the different ways that a family may communicate can affect the communication that you may develop as you grow up. You base your communication off of certain dynamics that your family can have, and it might not be the same as other people's families, and it might not be the same as other people that you'll meet during school or in other environments. You also learn from your family certain values that can shape your perception of other types of communication and can form the different ways that you'll communicate as you get older and as you communicate in different environments. Family remains a large part in everyone's communication for a great chunk of their life, but at a certain point, the main communication aspect shifts to being more technology-based. So as we become older into more of our later high school, more early adulthood stage of life, you shift to a more technology-based communication style. So once you get into the older school age, most things that we do for class are technology based, and also technology has made it very easy to communicate with people. It's made it so much easier to communicate with different types of people from different parts of the world and become friends with all sorts of other people and gain a different aspect, gain ideas of other people's ethnicities, other people's background. The technological part of communication ties in my visual aid for this speech, which would be my cell phone. So a cell phone makes it so much easier to interact with people. You can just tap a few buttons and you're on the phone with someone from anywhere in the world, and you can be on the phone for however long that you want. You can have so many conversations. You can type in different languages. You can translate languages. You can use it as a personalization for yourself, like my phone case. My little thing right here is from one of my coworkers, and then my phone case is a personal style choice. And then if you look on the other side, it's a picture of me and my lovely boyfriend, which is also, it just shows yourself as a person, as an object. Just looking at someone's phone can tell so much about them, but also it's such an important part to communication, and it's such an important way to communicate throughout the world. The emergence of technology as a communication aspect can be a good and a bad thing, because it's good that young people can have such an easy way of communicating with so many people and such an easy way of learning information, but it's also important to know that younger people with impressionable minds can have negative effects from being so easily able to interact with different types of people and interact with people that they may not know and learn just all sorts of information just with the internet. Now, as you exit out of the early adulthood, end of your high school years part of life, you get into a more adult, more business focused part of your life. And as you become more focused on that business aspect, you have to become a little bit more professional with your means of communication. So you have to learn how to work in a group setting. Once you get to this aspect of communication, you have to be more focused on the whole of a group rather than a personal aspect. Anytime before, you're more focused on like your person and your communication and like communication with friends, which is more casual, but you have to develop a more professional communication style, and you have to be working for the benefit of a whole rather than the benefit of a singular. You also have to be focused on being a good role model for other people in your same workplace. For me personally, when it comes to communication in the workplace, I know that I am someone that my coworkers can look up to and that my coworkers look to for guidance on how they should be acting and how they should be carrying themselves within a workplace. So it's very important that I give a solid and good example of how we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to communicate with like the guests and each other, and how a professional communication style can be positive in a working aspect. Now, my life may not be over, but what I've shared today is as far as I've come in my personal communication story. From the experiences of early childhood, familial relationships, teenage and young adulthood, and working experience, it should be easier to understand how everybody's personal experiences and life can shape how communication happens and why it may happen in certain ways. I hope this is something that can be seen as helpful to at least one person. I believe the knowledge of communication should be a more widespread topic to help people throughout the world understand each other better. However, for now, I'm going to bring this to a close. But I know this is definitely not the last communication experience that I will have, and it is not the most that I will ever know about the art of communication. You'll never truly ever stop learning about communication.